Picture this. You're sitting in your backyard, enjoying a peaceful summer evening, a light breeze, the sun setting just right. It's that perfect moment, until you hear that dreaded buzz in your ear. Mosquitoes, right? Annoying, but harmless, right? Well, not always. Let me introduce you to an enemy that hides in plain sight, one carried by those same pesky mosquitoes, Eastern Equine Encephalitis. Yes, it's a mouthful, but this virus is no joke. It's rare, but when it strikes, it can hit hard, real hard. So what exactly is EEE, and how did it earn such a fearsome reputation? Well, Eastern Equine Encephalitis is a virus that spread primarily through mosquito bites. Yeah, mosquitoes, the same little vampires you swat at mindlessly in the summer, can be carriers of something much more dangerous than an itchy bum. This particular virus lives in the blood of birds and mosquitoes. And when an infected mosquito bites you or a horse, it delivers a tiny viral package straight into your bloodstream. If you're lucky, your body fights it off without you even knowing, but if you're not so lucky, well, that's where things get scary. It's called Eastern Equine Encephalitis because the virus was first identified in horses in the eastern United States. But here's the kicker, it doesn't just stick to horses. It can jump to humans too. When it does, it can cause inflammation of the brain, a condition known as encephalitis, which is as bad as it sounds. In some cases, EEE can be fatal, and in others, survivors may suffer from lifelong neurological damage. Alright, now, I know what you're thinking. How common is this, really? Do I need to start wearing a mosquito net suit to the grocery store? Well, here's some good news, it's rare. I mean, really rare. In the United States, only a few cases of EEE are reported each year, usually around 5 to 10 in humans. But don't let that small number fool you, because when it does hit, it hits hard. Around 30% of people who get EEE don't survive it, and among those who do, many are left with serious, long-term health issues. Now that we've set the stage, let's rewind a little. How did we get here? How did a virus end up making its way from birds and mosquitoes to humans? To really get the full picture, we need to talk about ecosystems. Stay with me. I promise this is where it gets interesting. See, EEE has this whole life cycle that mostly plays out between birds and mosquitoes. Certain types of mosquitoes, especially those that like hanging out in swampy areas, gross, right? Pick up the virus from infected birds. The birds themselves don't really get sick, but they act as carriers, like silent Uber drivers for the virus, delivering it from one place to another. It's a whole system that usually doesn't involve humans at all. But every now and then, something breaks the chain. The virus jumps from the bird-mosquito cycle into another species, like horses or people. This is called a spillover event, and when it happens, it's bad news. Here's where things get tricky. Not all mosquitoes are capable of infecting humans with EEE. There are certain species that specialize in biting birds, and they're the ones usually carrying the virus. However, when these bird-biting mosquitoes get close to areas where humans live, or when mosquitoes that bite both birds and humans come into the mix, that's when spillover can occur. And that's how something that was just quietly circulating in a swamp can suddenly become a threat in your own backyard. Now, I'm not here to make you paranoid about every mosquito you see. Like I said, this is rare. But the risk is very real, and in the right conditions, outbreaks can happen. In fact, EEE tends to pop up in cycles. You'll go years without hearing much about it, and then bam, an outbreak. One of the biggest outbreaks in recent history happened in 2019. Several states in the US, especially in the Northeast and Great Lakes regions, reported human cases of EEE. There were over 30 confirmed cases, which might not sound like a lot at first, but remember, this virus has a mortality rate of around 30%. For a disease that rare, this was a pretty big deal. Communities were suddenly on high alert, and for good reason. But it's not just humans who have to worry. Horses are especially vulnerable to EEE. In fact, it was first discovered in horses before we ever realized humans could be infected too. And here's the thing. While there's a vaccine available for horses to protect them from EEE, we don't have one for humans yet. Yeah, let that sink in. So if there's no vaccine for humans, how do we protect ourselves? Well, it all comes down to one word: prevention. And preventing EEE starts with preventing mosquito bites. I know, easier said than done, right? But there are things you can do. First off, use insect repellent, especially one that contains DEET or other mosquito-repelling ingredients. Wear long sleeves and pants when you're outside, especially during dawn and dusk when mosquitoes are most active. And maybe skip that evening walk in the swamp if you can help it. Just saying. Oh, and don't forget about your yard. Mosquitoes love standing water, it's like their personal breeding ground. So make sure to get rid of anything that could collect water, like old tires, buckets, or clogged gutters. It's the little things, but they can make a big difference. Now, I know this all sounds pretty intense, but here's the part where we find some hope. Even though there's no human vaccine yet, researchers are on it. Scientists have been working hard to develop treatments and preventive measures for EEE, and there's a lot of promising research on the horizon. They're studying the virus, its transmission, and possible vaccines. And as technology advances, we're getting closer to having a way to protect ourselves from EEE. So, what happens if someone does get infected? Well, that's where things get tricky. Unfortunately, there's no specific antiviral treatment for EEE, so doctors focus on supportive care. That means helping the body fight the infection as best it can, through fluids, pain management, and sometimes even mechanical ventilation in severe cases. It's a scary process, but with the right care, some people do recover. And while long-term effects can include things like memory problems, paralysis, or seizures, rehabilitation and therapy can help survivors regain their quality of life. But here's something to remember. Even though EE is dangerous, the chances of you or someone you know getting it are still pretty low. The key is awareness. By knowing the risks and taking steps to protect yourself, you're already ahead of the game. And if we all stay informed and take mosquito prevention seriously, we can reduce the chances of outbreaks happening in the first place. Let's bring this home with a thought. It's wild to think that such a tiny creature, a mosquito, can be the carrier of something as dangerous as EEE. It's a reminder that in nature, size doesn't matter. Small things can have a huge impact. But it's also a reminder of our resilience. We've faced big challenges before, and while EE is no joke, it's something we can fight with knowledge, prevention, and, hopefully, future vaccines. So next time you hear that familiar buzz of a mosquito in your ear, don't just brush it off. Think about the world that tiny insect comes from and the dangers it could carry. But also, remember that we have the power to protect ourselves and our communities. Stay safe, stay smart, and keep the bug spray close.